Am I adulting good?
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
I feel so anxious.
This is what it's all about.
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
This is what life's all about. I just don't know what I'm doing. Oh, what's going on?
I don't understand.
Welcome to the Am I Adulting Good podcast, where we talk about all things self-help and the reality behind trying to adult to our best ability in this world. We're your hosts, Brianna, Kriss,
And I'm Caroline Savransky.
and we are both in community mental health, so we've seen some pretty interesting things.
Deciding to take on the journey of self-betterment is daunting and hard. Let's make the mistakes together and share what does and does not work. Because hey, are any of us doing anything right? And if we are, how would we even know?
We will cover a variety of topics like the old self-sabotage, toxic relationships, finding yourself after a breakup, or perfectionism. Special guests will be invited for most episodes to share their experiences and wisdom.
This podcast is aimed at anyone and everyone who needs a little bit of help getting their shit together and wants some company in doing so. We're in it for the laughs, but if we can learn something on the way, then that's good too.
Am I adulting good?
Hey guys, welcome to our safe haven of adulting in all the wrong ways. We thought it would be time for Brianna and I to do just a little one-on-one episode. We've been doing a lot of interviews, but we thought today we would chat about something that, I feel a lot of adults go through, and that is a career change. How many people do you think graduate school, go to university at 18 and stick with the career they got from their first degree forever?
They do say that the average rate that people go through is around 4 different career changes in their life. And that's pretty incredible if you think about it, because, how often are you like, this is the dream job for me. I can't wait to get into this line of work. And then, 10 years down the track, you're like, whoa, what have I been doing with my life?
And you don't want to end up in that position. And you also I don't know. I don't know how many career changes I've had, probably just 2. And then it's kind of come full circle because now I'm doing a mental health podcast, not this one, another one. And then also doing this podcast. And I started in media when I was 18, then decided to get a degree in psychology. And now I'm kind of combining both of them, which is like, fuck yes, this is sick. So I think with career changing and molding and moving as you go, and the more experience you have, the more choices you have with how you want to do your degree. I am of the humble opinion that you can create a job for yourself if it doesn't exist out there.
Yeah. And this is interesting as well, because it's the idea of the difference between what is a job and what is a career. And I've had thousands of jobs. At one point, I had been working at a cafe, and I'd been a mental health recovery worker, and I had been auditing state buses and transport and doing data collection there.
If we're talking jobs, I can't even, bartender. I worked at a pet shop. I did the same bus auditing thing that you did for a while. Your whole family was doing that. I joined in on that. I worked at the Sydney cricket ground selling cricket gear. Anything to get by. The hustle is strong, and I'm still hustling. I'm still doing babysitting jobs on the side.
Yeah, and babysitting's always been there, and dog sitting and house sitting. But that's it. There's that big difference between having a job for income and then having a career of something that you invest your education and time into to pursue different positions and to become an expert at. And it's okay if you don't even want a career. Being career driven is a state of mind more so than something that you have to do in life. But it's interesting when you do dedicate yourself to a certain career path and that career path changes. So your entire force and hours that you spend is completely redirected into a different way. We even heard in one of our previous episodes how one of our guests had gone from being financial manager and in the finance industry, and now as a relationship coach. And that is a career change.
Yeah, like when you look at my resume, my LinkedIn, I've got like a diploma in media communications. I did all this radio, TV work, and then only 5 years ago started mental health. And it looks really strange. You know, I always try in my like cover letters and stuff to like squeeze in like I've got a high level of communication, both verbal and written, due to my previous history of radio and journalism. But they're like, fuck off. We want someone with 10 years mental health experience. Get out of here. So it's like, you know, I am quite
You're like, I have 10 years of mental health experience. Personally.
But like I'm working alongside people who are in their early 20s and are ahead in this particular career than me because they studied and they got their masters, and I'm only starting my masters next year. So it's like I'm working alongside 23, 24-year-olds who are going to be getting to, I don't know, how do you even say, the finish line or climbing the rank higher than me because I spent however many years working in media before I finally got into mental health. And I used to be like resentful of that. It's like, why can't all the experience I've had in all my other jobs, like, why can't it count? Like, why am I competing against these young, you know, early 20-year-olds that have no life experience? Fuck you guys. Just like really good education.
To be honest though, education these days, I'm a good example of that. I'm, you know, currently in academia, and my education is only mostly relevant for being in academia. If I go out into the real world, I've had no experience. I haven't had that industry experience to be seen as worthy enough for a position elsewhere, because even if you're in academia for many, many years, people don't see it as real life experience. And so I think the fact that you have that hands-on experience in media from earlier on in life, and now you're doing the education part, will be more of an asset than what you actually think. And this is the whole idea, right, of changing careers and having 4 different career changes in a life, is being able to draw on those interchangeable skills that you get from each of these career positions, and to make every situation that you've been in count towards your next step. So you don't see it as, oh, well, there goes the last 15 years down the drain. But you've learned so much along the way, even if it is the communication skills and the administration and time management and people and stakeholder skills, you know, just different things in general. Everything applies. And I think that's one of those perceptions on the fear that comes with changing careers, is that you think you have to finish studying by 25, get into industry, and then go off. But if you're changing careers consistently and you're studying all throughout your life, it's kind of good to have this back and forth balance between study and industry experience.
It's the studying, because, you know, it builds up the student debt. And I think the hardest part of studying when you're older is that you can't work full time, or you can't work with the salary expectation that you would have previously had. You know, you've got to settle for less. And I read this article before we started recording this, and it's by ABC, and it's called Ready for a Career Change. These are the first steps to take. So I'll link it in the bio. It's pretty good. And it starts off by saying half of Aussies want to make a career change, but 2/3 of those don't know where to start. And I've had friends who are well established in their career and want to take the jump into something else, but they would have to take a huge pay cut. They would have to start dedicating, 30 hours a week to study, working part-time, and then in their new career, starting from the bottom. And they're like, well, I'm used to earning X, Y, Z amount of figures. I don't know how to alter my lifestyle to start from the bottom again in a new field. Even though they might be able to climb their way up faster than if they were younger, there is a setback in changing careers, because you do have to start from the get-go. You're not going to be a manager in accounting if you've been managing a bar for 10 years. Like, it doesn't, the two don't correlate as well as we'd like.
I have people skills. I can manage people. I've been taking people's coffee orders for 20 years and dealing with their angry customer service. To be honest, and we've both worked in hospitality before, the people skills that you learn is just Yeah.
Oh, and
Very.
the de-escalation techniques that we do use in mental health. Learning to remain very calm in the face of adversity. That's that's what hospitality teaches you, and that's what you need in mental health. You need to be able to just stay calm when someone is yelling at you and raging, and just reflect back their emotions and say, I hear what you're saying. I feel your anger. I understand, but there's nothing we can do about it.
I feel your anger, and now I'm angry too.
I'm going to take that out on my friends later, but right here and now, I'm peaceful and I'm placating the situation.
What did the article say?
So it gives you like a rundown of pointers of what you should ask yourself before you do a career change. So it's like, talk to real people who have the job that you want. Work out what you don't like about your current career. Assess what skills you have and like how will that translate into the new career that you want. Consider your financial and family commitments. Consider your location and what is available locally and online. I presume that's like for studying, right? Because I'm doing my master's online. There's no way that I could go into uni and dedicate time while working my job. Look at enrolling in smaller courses or classes of interest. So maybe like not committing to a full degree. Seek out a mentor. Road test some roles via volunteering or an internship. And I know my career counselor at university when I was like in my late 20s said, go on LinkedIn, type in like the kind of job you foresee yourself having and look at the qualifications they have. You might not need a master's. You might not need a PhD or an honors. You might just need to do a couple of certificates on top of your degree, and then you'll be eligible to work in your dream role. So like, you don't need to overcommit and think that the more you study, the better it is, because the more you study, like the less time you have to be working full time. And unfortunately, in most careers, you do need to work full time to be able to climb the ranks.
I mean, if you're in a good enough business as well, or a company that actually cares about their employees, you can often study alongside working for them, and they will cover your study to help train you into, you know, roles higher up. But I mean, if you are changing career, and I was in this, what was it called, a paddle workshop the other day, where one of the issues they raised was specifically women who have taken a career break because they've had children, and it might be, you know, 2-3 years down the line before they get back into their industry. And even if they're going into the same career as before, the way that technology has been advancing, they still lack the skills to then get a position because they've had that mid-career break. And one of the best things that was raised is that you don't have to go back and study an entire degree, but to, even if you can in your own time or at some point, do short courses. Something like Coursera, which offers a lot of short courses at Stanford University, all sorts of ones, just to brush up on some of the latest skills. It makes it so much more manageable to stay on top of the industries and these different transferable skills. I mean, you know, I've done psychology and I've studied neuroscience and research and all these things, but there's a part of me that wishes I did more techie stuff. So lately I've been doing a UX design and research course through Coursera, which is really intensive, and I'm a little bit behind on my assignment submissions, but that's okay. But that's it. You can also take it in your own time, and if you need to have a break, you can have a break. But it's one of these things that career changes don't have to be as overwhelming as you think they are. And the best thing you can do, and I agree with the article, is speak to people in the field, understand what are the most important skills that I need, and then work out a way how you can either get accredited for it or see if you've got those interchangeable skills as they are.
And if you work in quite a supportive business or organization that's quite big, you can ask to gain experience in other like faculties of that business or organization, you know, but that's quite rare, because if you're doing well at your job, they want to keep you there. That's just, you know, one little possibility, like, hey, can I just do 1 day a week in another department? Just see how that goes. Some managers and organizations are like all for upskilling you and letting you move laterally across the organization and business. Some aren't. So sometimes you do have to leave the job that you're in. But look at the gaps in your skills, identify what you really want to do, identify like where you see yourself for the next 10, 20 years, and see how you need to upskill, because it might not need to be a whole degree. You could just be doing certificates and little courses in the evenings and on the weekends, and not actually have to cut out that much of your schedule. And people like when people are hiring, you never know who you never know who's on the receiving end of your resume and cover letter. There might be someone who's ready to take a punt on someone that's never worked in the industry, and they're ready to mold. You know, they want someone that they can get into the role and they can teach them how they want them to operate in the field. You know, like not someone who's set in their ways and has been doing it for 10, 20 years. Other times you get someone who's like, nah, I want a master's degree from the best university, and I want you to have all these. I mean, how many times have you looked on like Seek or those job websites, and they're like, you need a master's, you need to be qualified by APRA, you need to have 5 years experience, you need to have first aid certificate, mental health certificate, and we pay $60,000 a year. Or there's like a managerial role for $100,000 a year, where it's like, we don't even care if you have a degree or not, we just care about your communication skills and stuff. It's like,
yeah, I mean, it's so dependent on the employees themselves and the skills that they value, and it is such a numbers game at the moment. I mean, I was going for jobs previously, and I was told that there were 1,200 people who applied for those jobs. And that's not to say you don't have the right skills for it, but in this current worldly state of COVID and job availability and all the rest, it's also a bit of a numbers game, you know, and you just have to keep on putting yourself out there and trying to network and make connections.
I'm a big advocate for taking a punt, looking at a job and being like, look, I don't really meet all the selection criteria, and, you know, there were probably people out there way better than me, but I'm going to try to kill it in my cover letter. Yeah, and just take a punt.
100%. Fun fact is that I've been in a lot of webinars lately about careers and moving into industry, specifically from academia and whatnot, and some of the statistics that come from that. But in general, when applying for a job, no matter which sector that you're applying for, whether it's an NGO, government, academia, or industry, in general, when they look at the selection criteria, it's really fascinating. Women, if they generally, this is speaking, if they do not meet every single selection criteria point, they will not apply for the job. Which means that they're losing out on that opportunity. And the problem is that you don't know the other people who have applied and how many of those selection criteria points that they've marked off. Whereas men, on average, if they hit, I think it was something around 60% of the selection criteria, they will still apply for that job. And a lot of the times they will still get it, because it depends obviously on the experience and which selection criteria points they have met. So one of the biggest points of advice is, say, if you're missing 1 or 2 of the selection criteria, still go for it. Address those points, you know, and say that this is something that I do not have, but I'm currently in the process of acquiring, or, you know, I'm happy to do training before taking on this position officially, whatever it might be. But a super fascinating thing to understand of just the different approaches where women just, you know, we want to make sure that we've got this in the bag and we'll go for it. But men have that bit more of a blasé, oh yeah, I could do it. I mean, 2 out of 3 is good.
That's insane, because when I say take a punt, I mean, I don't meet one of the selection criteria. I'm like, oh, that's one. Oh, that's the essential selection criteria. I meet 9 out of 10, but I don't meet the 10th. I'm going to be crazy and apply anyway. I'm going to be wild. Take a punt. Now you're telling me if men are just like, I meet like 4 out of 7, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
That just makes me feel like, oh, well, you know what? If I meet half the criteria, I'll just apply.
Yeah, do it. I mean, it depends also on how much time you're putting into these things. But if it's a position that you want because it looks like it's something you will love, then go for it. I'm sort of against these days of applying for positions and sinking your time into applying for a position that you don't actually want and you're just doing it for the sake of it. Good practice and everything, but go for things that you would put your heart into.
I'm all up for writing a cover letter and sending in my resume, but there are some healthcare jobs where you write a cover letter, a resume, and then you have to answer about 10 questions in great detail. Like, please give us an example of a time when you were in a very stressful situation and you handled it well, or you had a very difficult client and blah. And that, those applications take fucking hours, not hours, okay, I'm exaggerating, like an hour and a half. But it really, like, you have to like really flex your brain. And that's when I get into an application like that, that's when I start to go, do I meet all the selection criteria? If not, I don't think I'm going to go ahead with this because this is so draining.
Oh, it's exhausting, especially day after day applying for something. And then also, you go through those parts of being rejected when they say no, and it kind of hurts you every time. You're being put down, or they don't even get back to you and you kind of get angry at them for it. But I mean, you will get rejected for jobs. It's a part of it. What was it? There was people coming from academia into industry can apply for up to 200 jobs before they land one. It is just insane. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, like, one of the resources I actually wanted to bring up today in terms of this is there's this new resource for people who are going from academia into industry called Postdoc, and I'll put a link onto it. I'm not sure if it's available to the public just yet, but it's a great career inspiring resource for people specifically wanting to move to industry, or just outside of academia or from academia. And it's being created by the Australian National University, I believe, and by the Thesis Whisperer, who is an incredible human as well. Yeah, so I'll post that up. But I mean, like, we need these resources. One of the hardest things about changing career is not knowing where to look or how to find the skills that you need. And even just go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a phenomenal resource these days where you can look at jobs. And I don't know if you can see it if you don't have the premium or not, but get the premium, 30-day trial or whatever it is, just to see some of the features that they have, where you can see who's applied for this job, what skills that they have, like the top, 10 skills of the people who have applied for this job, what their education is, and just to get a bit of an idea of what you're going against and what you actually need to go for these type of positions.
LinkedIn is amazing. I've got to say, I've had a few creepy experiences on LinkedIn, guys. Like, no, excuse me, no, this is a networking platform. Are you going to offer me a job? Are you going to network with me? Don't ask me what I'm doing that afternoon if I would like to go to the beach or catch up for a coffee. Like, that is just foul. Like, just gross. I sent my friends screenshots of this. Like, I don't want to make it public. I just don't want to make a big deal out of it. But like, I just want to shame them in like a small circle of people.
Can I just say it gives a whole new meaning to the term headhunting?
A message in your
I could not hear that. You just went silent.
When you get a message in your LinkedIn inbox, you're like, oh, is this somebody scanning my profile and thinking, she could be a great candidate? And it's like someone saying, hey, what you doing this afternoon? It's like, oh, fucking hell. I get so angry.
Thankfully, I haven't been scouted out that way, but I'm kind of a little bit, upset that I'm not. What's wrong with my profile? No.
My profile picture is just a picture off Facebook. I probably should get like a more professional photo, but maybe that's the issue. It's a bit too casual. I'm giving off casual vibes. But I take my LinkedIn very seriously, networking on LinkedIn.
But you know what, though, when thinking about changing careers, it's so easy to feel down and out. I mean, when you're in a career that you don't love and a career that you hate, or a position that you really don't like, you get all the frustration of wishing that you weren't working so you could look for another job. But then as soon as you're in the position of not working, you start stressing about not having income and not having a career. And then it can lead you down another pathway of pursuing something that you don't want just to have something secured. And one of the biggest points of advice is follow your heart in the career that you want, because you don't want to be doing something 5 out of 7 days of the week, let's say, in something that you don't love. And it's worth hopefully being able to get government payments if you're lucky enough to be able to do that in this country, or being able to work off savings if you're lucky enough to even save in this country, but to land something that you will actually love. And you will go through all the emotional turmoil of thinking, what am I doing? Why did I leave? I don't know where I want to go. But take the time to soul search this stuff. But also know that you're never locked into anything at the same time, which is always nice to know.
I was thinking you and I are quite lucky. We've been working from a young age. I got my first job when I was 13, so I've never had a blank resume. But I think about the client that I work with.
My grandma had me working in her factory downstairs at the age of 4.
Technically, I got a job packing boxes when I was 10 years old, but we won't talk about that. In Australia, the legal age to work is 14 and 9 months, but my mum knew a guy that owned a clothes shop and they forged when I was like 13 that I was 14 and 9 months. But anyway, please don't call the police. My mum was not abusing me. I really wanted a job so I could buy like chapsticks and whatever 13-year-olds buy. Anyway, but just reflecting on the clients that I work with in mental health, so many of them were sick from such a young age and only kind of got mentally stable and ready to work like in their early 20s. And I'm helping them write a cover letter, a resume, but they've got nothing to write. You know, like they might, I was just looking at a client's resume the other day. The last thing that they did was year 10. And he was handing out resumes. He's like, I've handed out 20 resumes and no one's calling me back. And we're trying to set him up with like volunteering roles, because on your resume, you don't have to say that it's a volunteering role. All you have to do is say, I'm working in this clothes shop and here is my reference. You just need to get something on your resume to have a reference. Once you've got 1 reference, once you've got 2 reference, once you've got 3 reference, you're set. You're set. So it doesn't matter how you get those references. And unfortunately, you do sometimes have to volunteer, because when we start, when we're like 13, 14, we're earning $6 an hour. So people are happy to hire us. But when you're getting your first job in your 20s and the wage is much higher, people might not want to take a punt on you. So if you're someone who's, maybe studied their entire life and never had a job, or had health issues, or for whatever reason only started looking for work in their early 20s, I would definitely recommend volunteering. And volunteering in a field that you're interested in, like getting an internship, just dedicating those hours. Oh, I remember once I had a 40-hour-a-week internship. 40 hours a week I worked for free, and then I had to work every night at a pub to like fund my life. So it's like it's not,
and drinking habit.
And drinking. Well, the pub supplied that. Yeah. But it's not easy. Like if you want to get into a field, sometimes you have got to just absolutely work your ass off for free, or for like minimal wage, or just, for them to give you lunch. And we're lucky to live in Australia where you can be on Job Seeker and get Centrelink payments. So we're in a world, like we live in a country where you can volunteer and not be living on the streets.
I mean, internships, I think, have to be paid for these days, but I still think some places get away with however they term it, so that you basically are working for free. But a really good way to look at it, because I'm really recognizing this more than ever, of how much industry experience or experience in a field is more important than the degree that you hold a lot of the time, is that when you're working on the job, if let's say you're not getting paid for it, it's basically still giving you hands-on education, and you're making networks, and you're getting that experience that you need. And think about it, we go to university and we get education, but we also pay for it, and we're paying, we'll end up coming out with a huge HECS debt at the end of the day. But if you think of an internship as free education that you're not paying for, and yes, you're not getting paid for, but will actually give you a lot more valuable connections and experience and education, and hopefully they'll get to the point where they can actually fund you to take on certain educational pursuits that you need the certificate for, then that's probably the best route at the moment.
And a huge thing is the reference, because every job that I've ever applied for, except in my very, very early years, require a reference. And if you can't give them anything, then you're most likely not to get hired, because someone's got to vouch for you. And the best way, the only places that really in your 20s or late teens that will accept you without a reference is interning. They're happy to count on you, but then they become your referees. So that's the best place to start, really.
Start young, kiddies.
Well, start
Not
young.
too young.
But if But if you had health issues or whatever, and you're only getting into the field later in life, cannot recommend interning enough. And I slogged away in media internships. You're saying that you're meant to get paid, but I think media just has a whole different fucking ball game of interning because it's just slave labor. Your sister and I worked at this PR company, slaving away for free, getting yelled at all day. Oh my God.
They pay you in abuse and long hours.
Yes, it's great. But yeah, like I just thinking like now, like reflecting on all the shit that I've had to do, and now I'm in like a steady job and have 2 podcasts and can choose which babysitting jobs I take. Like, you know what? Actually, I'm feeling, pretty good in my life right now, in my career right now. Yeah, thank you.
That's so good. I'm loving my career. I don't know where it's gonna head, but I'm just riding the waves as it comes. And that's it. As long as you love the process of what you're doing, it's the most you can ask for. But I mean, to wrap things up, should we go on to a Holy Trinity?
Yes, you may start, my dear.
Damn it. All right. Ooh, let's think. A gratitude I have at the moment. I'm very grateful that I live in a beautiful home at the moment, that I've got a relationship right now, which I haven't had a proper long-term relationship for around 6 years. And this isn't long-term, this is the beginning, but it looks like it could be heading that way, which is quite exciting to make things a little bit official. I'm really grateful for it, just to be nurtured and to be able to love and feel loved. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be able to explore that side of life a little bit at the moment. For my brag, I have just been awarded a postdoctoral fellowship, which I am stoked about. And yeah, it's huge. It's very difficult to land a job in academia at the moment. And I've basically worked my ass off, and it's really been acknowledged and appreciated. And for my desire, I desire to maintain a balance in my life. I have quite a few different projects running at the moment, and I can see how things can snowball into a non-balanced state of working a lot and getting things done. But I really desire just to stay on top of my health, my relationships, my work life, and my family, and to keep that all going well. How about you?
Nothing big, just everything to be in order in all aspects of your life. Regular.
Yeah.
But your brag's amazing. You're so smart. I wish I had your brains.
Thanks.
Okay, my
comes with its own burden.
Sorry, it comes with its own burden.
It comes with its own burden.
My gratitude is I got the COVID vaccine the other day.
Ooh.
So feeling very privileged to be living in a country where they're rolling it out, even though like COVID, there's no COVID cases in New South Wales, I don't even think. But I got it. It was great. Friendly staff, feeling good, and just very grateful. A brag is that I've been staying off alcohol for quite a while now. And drinking was a bit of an issue for me, and I've successfully stayed off it. And I've got really supportive friends that whenever I have a craving, I can call them and they're just like, remember why you're staying off it. So yeah, and my desire is to, after about 6 months to 1 year, I haven't decided how long I'm going to stay off the alcohol for, but resume drinking with a changed attitude to alcohol, with a changed relationship to alcohol. Not have it as part of like my daily or weekly life, like enjoy alcohol in a very mindful, conscious way, in like at weddings or when I'm on holidays or celebrating something. Not drink to get drunk, but drink when I'm happy and celebrating something to like enhance that joy. And definitely avoid drinking to like mask feelings. I never want to do that ever again.
Oh, I'm so proud of how far you've come.
Thank you.
Yeah. I guess we can leave that on a really beautiful high note.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. And next week we'll be back with an interview.
Ooh. Who's it gonna be? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. We do know, but you will have to find out.
Laters.
Thanks for listening to the Am I Adulting Good podcast. We hope you guys are getting out of it as much as we are and are learning a trick or two about how to adult. Please give us a review and a 5-star rating, like our podcast, and follow our channel on whichever streaming app you're using. It really helps us reach more people and build our community.
Hit us up on Instagram at Am I Adulting Good? Also, remember to send us your Holy Trinity and share your stories with us at amiadultinggood@gmail.com. Each week, we'll share one of our adulters' emails, and that could be you. Seriously, we love hearing from you. Keep doing your thing, adulters. We love you. We love you.
Am I adulting good?